Now, more of Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the only show directly addressing the problems and solutions for Illinois. Now, from AM 560, here's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes, co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project, on this edition of Illinois Rising. And Pat, this is a case that you and the Liberty Justice Center have picked up that could change the national landscape, which of course would include Illinois, with respect to public sector unions. This is the Janus v. AFSCME case, where the status is waiting for a grant of cert by the Supreme Court to take up the case on appeal. Give us the kind of backstory and what you think the prospects are.
Yeah, so the United States Supreme Court, Dan, many years ago said that you could not make a public sector employee join a union, but the unions could charge them what they refer to as fair share fees. And the idea is, in collective bargaining, even the non-union people are sort of benefiting from the collective bargaining process, so they should pay for it. And that was current Supreme Court law. But there was a case out of California called Friedrichs where a school teacher challenged this. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the court indicated, particularly Justice Scalia before he died, that it was a violation of First Amendment rights of free speech and free association to force these non-union members to pay these fair share dues. And Scalia also indicated, and so did Justice Roberts, that everything a union does is political, a public sector union does is political, because in the collective bargaining process, you are bargaining with a government. So it's like lobbying, right? So Scalia died. That case remained 4-4, went back to California. We picked up a case here in Illinois, plaintiff named Janus, same circumstances. The Seventh Circuit ruled against us, as they have to do, because the Supreme Court precedent, as I just referenced, is in place. But with the Gorsuch appointment, Dan, we just filed our cert petition this week. There is an outstanding chance that if the court grants cert, and my prediction is they will, that there are 5 votes on the court to end forced unionization in public sector workers.
And Mark Janus is a Department of Human Services employee, state employee.
Yes.
Right. And so he was he's just somebody who said, look, I don't want to be in the union.
I don't want to be forced to associate with my dollars with the union, because the union does things, Dan. They're activists.
I don't want my money to go to this candidate.
I don't want
it
to go to that. I don't want it to go to that. And I don't want it to go to the collective bargaining process, because that's lobbying the government too.
All right, Pat. So if your prediction holds, and now with Gorsuch on the court this time goes 5-4 in favor of, in this case, Janus, and against forcible extraction of dues from state workers who don't want to be public sector union workers, who don't want to be in the public sector union. What does that mean for Illinois? What does it mean for the national landscape with respect to public sector unionization?
Well, now public sector employees will have right to work across the country, and the unions will be weakened, right? And they'll be weakened because there'll be less money coming into their coffers to do the politics that they do and influence public officials. And so the unions are fighting this. They fought it at Friedrichs. They're fighting it now. They fought it 40 years ago in the last Supreme Court case that decided this, because the amount of money that they are extorting out of these non-union employees is meaningful to them as they try to buy the leverage from public officials.
Right. So they get put to a market test.
Correct.
And some percentage will stay and some percentage will leave. And we've seen some examples of this at the state level, not in Illinois, of course, but in Wisconsin, with the budget repair bill that Scott Walker did upon his election to governor, and with the Republicans in the state legislature there, where the WEA, the Wisconsin Education Association, the teachers union, they lost like 40% of their members overnight. Sure,
Dan, because these unions and the Democrats that are supported by them, you know, there's all this talk about, helping the middle class and all this nonsense. What it really is they're bullies. They're totalitarians. They want to force people to associate with them because they just want their money. And they want their money so that they can pay off public officials with campaign donations, so that they can get laws passed and collective bargaining done that benefits them, even though the taxpayers and everyone else suffers.
Well, because they want to stay on both sides of the deal.
Correct. And when people inside their own, perimeter, including people they work with, say, hey, I don't want to be a part of that, they can't just say, okay, do whatever you want to do. They don't have the confidence of that because that they know that their system is crumbling. And these people like Janus and other people are willing to do this. they're under tremendous pressure at work. There's pressure from the other union members. You know how unions are. So Janice is doing a great service for the United States, and I hope the Supreme Court goes the way that we think it will.
Well, and too, just on this point, to be clear, hey, if the Chicago Teachers Union, if 99% of the teachers want to stay in the union, you can stay in the union.
God bless.
So so your right to collective bargaining and your access to a union, that in no way is infringed upon by freeing workers like Mark Janus to opt out.
Yeah, opt out and negotiate on his own behalf. He doesn't want the union to represent him in any way, shape, or form, but they need to force that. And they don't care about Mark Janus. They couldn't care less. They care about his money.
Well, and they care about the precedents.
Correct.
Of course, right? And so thinking about this, since the public sector unions are kind of one of the three legs in the stool in terms of the constituencies for the Chicago Democrats and the financiers in particular, along with the trial lawyers, and then, your Champagne socialists on the lakefront and North Shore. Boy, that really changes the political landscape, not just from a governmental perspective, but from an electoral perspective.
Well, of course, because you have now just changed the ability of the politicians that are getting money, and they're almost exclusively Democrats, although not always, but in this state, heavily Democrat, Mike Madigan, you take away so much money from their coffers to run campaigns and do the things they need to do to stay in political power, and that's why they're fighting it so hard.